All right, everybody.
I call it girl
Cancer
talk.
Diagnosis 2. This video is going to be fun because I have the best niece, the only niece in the entire world.
Wait, hold on. Since Uncle Jesse got married, will Rihanna's kids be your niece?
No.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
So, anyways, back to our story. We just finished having some lunch, spring break for this kid. I was out helping my mom and we got hungry. So now we're in the parking lot doing my video of the cancer diagnosis number 2.
Ow! I just stabbed myself with the thing.
So it'll be quite entertaining, apparently. So let's get started. So back in October, 10 years ago, I was 30, I'm 40 now, so that would be 2009. I was diagnosed with my second round of cancer. My cervical cancer that I had when I was 21 had metastasized to my lungs. So anybody that knows anything about cancer knows that once it metastasizes, it's a death sentence. I didn't know at the time that I had cancer. In October, I started coughing, and Isabella was doing cheerleading. She was 9 years old. She's 19 now.
Wait, they know who
So-
Isabella is?
Of course they know who Isabella is.
Everybody has.
Everybody does. So we're doing cheerleading. We're outside. It's getting cold. The seasons are changing. I start to cough, and I just chalk it up to allergies. The only time I've ever had allergies in my entire life is when I was pregnant with Isabella. And that was more sneezing, itchy nose, watery eyes. Once I had her, that all went away, and I've never had allergies since. My entire family does. It's kind of a running joke in the family. I never get sick. I don't have allergies.
That's how
And when I
that is.
do get sick, I have cancer. So, again, we're out. We're doing cheerleading. It's cold. It's rainy. It's warm. And it's regular Texas weather. So, I'm thinking it's allergies. So I go get some antihistamines or allergy medicine, whatever you want to call it, and start taking it. Well, of course it doesn't work. And after a few weeks, my cough goes from just kind of like a normal everyday cough, like you cough like a normal person, to cough, exactly. So coughing so bad, I couldn't even talk. Getting 2 words out was very impossible. I was coughing so bad. So at this point, I go to the doctor, of course. I go in. Before I went to the hospital to get the x-ray, I was already going to my doctor, and they were trying to figure out, like, are you sick? Because the coughing wasn't stopping. So first they thought I had pneumonia. So for about a week, I had
Pneumonia.
It's like a cold, but really bad. So they thought I had pneumonia, and I wear a mask for a week. I'm on all these antibiotics, still coughing my lungs out, and it doesn't work. They test me for tuberculosis. They're like, you have to have TB, and I'm like, how am I going to have TB? So of course that comes back negative, and they're testing me for everything under the sun. And Dr. Kramer, who is located in Lake Worth off of Boat Club Road,
I still go to her.
is an amazing doctor, because after she did all the tests, she literally walked into the room and sits down and looks at me and goes, I don't know what's wrong with you. And I don't know what tests to do anymore because I've done everything. She's like, you need to go see a lung specialist. It may be some kind of respiratory infection or something. So we set the appointment up to go see the respiratory therapist, or the lung doctor, I apologize. And we go in, they run tests, and they do an x-ray. So I go to his office for the doctor's appointment. He goes, we need to go to the hospital to do a chest x-ray, because they did like breathing treatments and things in his office, and obviously they came out abnormal.
Are you just
So
wasting gas?
yes, I'm wasting gas, but it's cold. So he's like, let's go to he couldn't do an x-ray in his office, obviously. So he's like, meet me at JPS, we'll do an x-ray. Go to JPS, do the x-ray, and for some reason, they don't see anything. But by the time I get home, which is JPS to Azle is 35 minutes maybe, they call me telling me that they need to come back because after the doctor, the x-ray tech had looked over it, it gets sent up to a higher person. And
Oh, that made
it happens, everybody does this. Like, there's 3 different people that read your reports because they literally have to cover their ass. So the 3rd person read it and was like, you need to bring her back in. There's like some spots on her lungs that shouldn't be there. So so I go back in. Isabella's been dropped off at school. She goes back in, or I go back in, and they're admitting me. So I have to have my mom call. I call my mom, tell her they're admitting me. I don't know what's going on. And you've got to get Isabella from school. So they admit me because a lung doctor wants to do a bronchoscope. So as they're wheeling me in to like kind of the waiting area to get ready for the bronchoscope, I see my doctor looking at my x-ray, and I think in between here they've done a CAT scan, and I see it all up in the monitor. And as soon as I see it and see him looking, I knew. I was like, it's back. It's back. He comes into the room and goes, your cancer's back. They were supposed to do a light sedation with the bronchoscope, because that's why I was going back in, because they saw the nodules or whatever, and like, we need to do a bronchoscope. So that's why I went back in to get the bronchoscope scheduled. He's looking at the reports. And as he's wheeling me in, I see him looking. The face is not a good face. And as soon as I saw all that, I just knew. And so we go in, and he walks in the room, and he's like, your cancer's back, he said. And of course, I immediately start to bawl. He goes, we are going to completely knock you out, because he saw how my anxiety like shot through the roof. I started crying, and he knew the light sedation would not work. So in JPS, they do the bronchoscope. I come out, I call my parents, which was a total shit show because I was so doped up. I call my mom. I'm like, the cancer's back. She can barely understand me. My husband at the time was in the waiting room. Nobody had told him. My mom's calling him, asking him, where the hell are you? And he's like, I'm in the waiting room. And she's like, her cancer's back. And he's like, nobody's come out to tell me. So it was complete chaos. My sister at the time is working for an oncologist, who's my oncologist now. And I had called my original oncologist, was with Dr. Hancock, because he was the one that treated me when I had stage 4 cervical cancer and was supposed to die the first time. So I was very skeptical about changing doctors. But she asked him to come and see me. She convinced me that he's amazing and great and all this stuff. And I said, okay, I'll give it a chance. And I was still like, I can't leave Dr. Hancock. He saved my life the first time. How am I going to give this to somebody else that I don't know? So he comes in, he sees me, and obviously he walks into the room and just walks in with this aura, I guess you want to say, that it's just, I knew everything was going to be okay and it was okay to switch. So he comes in, we go through the whole diagnosis, what needs to happen, what stage we're at, and things like that. I get out of the hospital. I was there for over a week. It was around Christmas time at this point, and my daughter's about to have a school play. And I'm like, diagnosed with cancer again. I'm like jailbreaking the hospital if they don't let me out, because I'm not about to miss my daughter's 6th grade or whatever grade she was in play. And so I ended up getting out, luckily, before the play. and go see her play. And then after that, we start the process of what we're going to do. And it's around Christmas time, so things were delayed. My anxiety was crazy. I was wanting it done now. And of course, it was Christmas and nobody could do anything. So we finally get in and get to the hospital, or get to the doctor's office, and he's like, this is what we've got to do. Chemo and radiation, double whammy again. Most people only get chemo first, then they get radiation. Both times I've had it done at the same time, so it was like a double whammy, which makes you even more sicker, and all other kinds of issues go on. So we start the process, and my sister again works for Dr. Lococo, and Dr. Lococo tells my sister, because we were planning to go to Galveston. Every summer we would go to Galveston or New Mexico. We've always had family trips. And he knew that we were about to go on a family trip. So he said, we need to do your first chemo treatment like this week. We got to get you started, and then we won't do another one for another week. So let's do it now. Then you go to Galveston because it's going to be your first one, so you won't be so sick. Second, third is going to be a different story. So he also tells my sister, you take the week off. You need to go with her. This is her second diagnosis. It's metastasized to her lungs, and she's not going to make it. So we go. We come back. We start the chemo. We start the radiation. And as I'm going through it, I lose my hair at this point. I'm going to go and find pictures so I can start posting pictures on YouTube, because I was bald, skinny, and all kinds of things. And I would like to share those with y'all, just because it really does make a huge difference once you see things like that. It kind of makes the story real, come to life. And so we go to we go to Galveston. We go through the rest of my chemo and radiation. In the middle of it, we take a trip to New Mexico, where my parents have a house as well. And again, the doctor tells my mom, she's not going to make it. You need to plan her funeral. So here we go again, round two. Sitting on the front porch, asking, what do we do? And I said the same thing I said the first time. I said, I want you to cremate me. I want you to go to Galveston, go to the restaurant, drink some beers. You don't get dressed for me now. Nobody goes an extra mile for me now. Which, this is what I said back then, but now it's a completely different story. And we'll get to that later. So I said, just beers and throw me in the ocean, not in the Gulf.
Throw you in the ocean?
Yes, throw me in the ocean. I want to be thrown in the ocean.
Are you,
Just part of me. You can have the rest of me.
Wait. Oh, we can throw Grandpa.
No, I don't think your grandpa wants to be thrown in the ocean. So that was that.
Oh.
Funeral's planned another time. And I continue to go to treatment. Then I finish. Once I finish, they run all these tests. And it takes weeks, months. So they're like, okay, the results are in. We need you to come in. I take my sister. My mom is too afraid to go. So I take my older sister, Levi. I'm literally sitting in the bed, or like on the bed thingy in the office. She's in the chair.
The paper thing.
Dr. Lococo walks in. He's going back and forth through my file. And literally, it's like a book. And he's like flipping back and forth. And I'm getting nervous because I'm like, oh my God, it's back. And I look at my sister, and she looks at me, and I'm like, he doesn't know how to tell me. He looks up and goes, it's gone. And we go, what? He's like, it's gone. And we're like, oh my God, like, we don't know what to say. And we're like, how? He's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know what you're doing. He's like, but whatever you are doing, do not stop. He's like, your cancer, the first cancer should have never went away. You should be gone from that. Second cancer, it's a metastasis. People die from metastasis. They have no idea why I am alive to this day. And this is a continued conversation every time I go in the hospital. When I have doctors walk into the room, they double take, because they're like, reading your records, we expect to walk in this room and find a dying person, and we walk into you. Look at you. And I'm like, they're like, you've got a great spirit, you're very well put together, you come in here, you joke around with us, you talk to us, you're up early in the morning, you're walking around, which is abnormal. So
Can they
it's a
see the text
huge,
messages?
I don't think they can see the text messages.
'Cause when
So
text
it's been a very huge deal, the fact that I've been so successful in beating cancer twice. So from the radiation and from the chemo, again, is why I'm having all these complications, and T-minus 20 something days lung removal. I'm very thankful. I mean, prayer's gone a long way. I believe in God. I really, really do, even as I scratch my head and make it look like I'm kind of confused about it. I don't go to church. I feel and think and know God and I have our own relationship, and God knows it as well. So I do. I pray and all kinds of things, and thank Him for keeping me alive this long. And we just continue to fight the battle, and that's what we're going to do. So this is all I have for right now on my cancer diagnosis too, with the metastasis to the lung, again, supposed to be dead, and not giving up. And I think that's a lot to do with it. You don't give up. It sucks. I have had the bestest friends in my life that have drugged me to the gym. Tammy, you're the one, and your mother, honey, they would pick me up and make me go to the gym, and I would literally walk on the treadmill for 30 seconds, and then I would go sit in the room that they were working out the rest of the time. I think it's those small things that keep people alive. You have to get up. You have to move. You have to go. I was forced. I'll be honest with you. I didn't want to. It was nothing I ever wanted to do. But if it wasn't for my mom, my dad, my great friends that made me get up and walk 2 steps when it seemed like 100 at the time, I honestly think that things would be a different situation. I wouldn't be sitting here with my gorgeous niece, feeding her lunch, and telling you guys my story now. So I'm going to end here, because we kind of went through all the second diagnosis. There's, of course, a lot more to add. I want you guys to know that I'm going to be kind of doing a professional video. I've had so many people reaching out. Club Boost reached out and shared my GoFundMe. Everybody that has subscribed and reached out and just say they're praying for me.
I haven't subscribed yet.
Dakota needs to subscribe. But everybody that's just, let me bring you coffee, let me pray for you, I will take it all day, every day. I have a woman that has this praying blanket, and she's coming over